Greetings of peace, and I invite you to ponder, what is it to be a diplomat? To be a diplomat means to speak up on the side of peace, of sustainable development, and it also means to try your best to build consensus. The idea of diplomacy is that dialogue actually builds a path to solutions. So I'm really happy to be here with you, albeit during the United Nations General Assembly week, there is time pressure. So thank you for coming and also for engaging on this question of education diplomacy. Very astute, I think, especially for those of you who are embarking on a career where the skills of being able to build consensus will be useful, no matter where you land. For me, as executive director of UNFPA, which is the United Nations Sexual and Reproductive Health Agency, our commitment is to make sure that every pregnancy is intended, that every childbirth is safe, and that every young person's potential is fulfilled, especially in the developing world, because we do exist in a scenario where, whether it's conflict or climate change, the recent COVID pandemic, and so much else, the atmosphere of inequality is there for us to conquer. Every day, UNFPA, in the more than 150 countries where we operate, see firsthand the transformative potential of education. Yes, education, especially for young people. I imagine a 10-year-old girl, she's on the cusp of her adolescence. And do you know that one of the indicators that is very reliable in terms of her life fortunes, economically, respect of her community, and so much else, really depends on her being able to finish her secondary education? I am sorry to tell you that secondary education for girls is still unattainable in so many circumstances. And why should that be? Because of controversy over her place in society. Child marriage under the age of 18, something that can derail her future, is still so prevalent across many of the continents on planet Earth. We also see situations where girls' education is truncated because they are undervalued. They're seen as less than the person standing next to them. Education completion tells us whether or not a girl is going to have good health, not just for herself, but also for her children and her family. The opposite means that she's going to be robbed of opportunities to develop her own human capital and to pursue her dreams. As we speak of diplomacy education, it also tells us that consensus building, whether it's in meetings like you're having, whether it's in huge summits, the General Assembly of the United Nations, the school committees, where people assemble to discuss in parliaments, governments have a huge role in assuring that the playing field is level and that a girl will be at the center of development. This was the charge that UNFPA put before the world in Cairo fully 30 years ago, when the International Conference on Population and Development declared that people should have free will to decide whether, when, with whom, and how many children they would have. That ICPD conference in Cairo was far ahead of its time. It emphasized linkages. It emphasized health, education, environment, as it was called at the time, all as part of the empowerment of young people, putting women and girls at the center. Let me just close by explaining that in March of this year, when a global youth dialogue was held in Benin, in West Africa, youth representatives from all over the world declared their interest in a common youth agenda to position the ICPD agenda on reproductive freedoms for our future. The agenda that these young people have defined is online, and I will invite you to look at it at the link that will be provided. They are asking for swift action on critical issues, including comprehensive sexuality education and the protection of young people's sexual and reproductive health and rights, underscoring the need for intergenerational dialogues on this issue where young people lead and are equipped to negotiate. Expansion of youth engagement here at the United Nations and in other multilateral fora is very important. This is important because that's how we will advance peace. That's how we will change the situation of poverty. And that is also going to lead to a common understanding. I explain my position and I listen as you explain yours, and vice versa. That is how we're going to create a more healthy, a more equal, and a more protective society for all. So the world may appear fractured, but as a young advocate, you are part of the healing of that fractured world. And I would encourage you to continue to foster meaningful dialogue, to build bridges rather than to build walls, and to make sure that you take a step forward and reach out to someone from a different background, someone from a different culture, someone from a different country, and stay actively engaged on issues that matter most to you. Your voice is central to shaping the next phase of our collective future. And as is often said, it's better to light a candle than to curse the darkness. Let us continue to partner. Let us continue to build alliances. I really wish you a successful event, and I assure you that UNFPA will be supportive of young people's initiatives all around the world as we build the future we want.